Yeah, he's going a bit crazy. You can see he's really on it, and just gets a handful of brake and it's all over. Yeah.
Oh,
I know he'll be swearing now.
Oh yeah. You can bet the explosives were flying out the bottom of that. At least with his motocross experience, you can get it out of such deep gravel without too much of a problem. But
watch those lights. Who's going to get the start? Vermeulen knows he needs it. He desperately needs to get away with Corsa. He has the front wheel of the 10 car day on to pause the air. It's the Suzuki. No, it's Vermeulen who tucks underneath going into the first turn with 25 dramatic laps to go. And Chris Vermeulen heads off Troy Corsa. That's what he needed to do.
Walker did not get the start he needed. His midfield. Oh, he's just chopped.
No, you're wrong, mate. He's right in there. But look at Steve Martin. Steve Martin, a terrific start on the FP1 Foggy Petronas line in about 7th place as they peel off through the dramatic sequence of turns onto the back straight. And at the front, the Tenkate Winston Honda, obviously inspired by the fact that there was a huge bash sponsored by Winston at Pascia, the biggest nightclub in Riccione last night. Vermeulen leads off. Go! Corsa tried to go underneath him and almost tipped himself off, and that gives Regis Laconi a chance to get underneath, and Tosland has made a stonking start and is in 4th place, just ahead of another man off the front row, Carl Muggeridge. And look at the way that Corsa was able to recover and nudge his way back inside through the Quercia right-hander.
That is going to be one angry Australian. He said it earlier on, he wasn't going to do anything silly, but it sort of made the pass there and didn't get through. Couldn't commit himself to the overtaking manoeuvre, so Chris Vermeulen didn't know he was there.
So Chris Vermeulen says that he was so disappointed at losing that possibility of his first ever World Superbike pole position yesterday, while the rest of his team were quite happy at the fact that they had 2 guys on the front row. There's Stalker in mid-pack. So he's the leading Kawasaki once again, but look at that start by Steve Martin right behind Yukio Kageyama as they cross the line now. And Vermeulen leads it from Corsa, Laconi, Tosland 4th, Muggeridge, Kageyama, Steve Martin and Jose Luis Cardozo ahead of Walker.
Frankie Killy has made an absolutely atrocious start. He's about lower than halfway. He's
15th.
Back.
He's just in the points, so we're going to have to see a Frankie Killy special, and that was Tosland running wide, and that gave the opportunity for Carl Muggeridge to dive through. Muggeridge made some adjustments to the rear suspension of his bike on Friday night, and he said it was really a hugely improved animal yesterday. But Tosland, he says he's feeling like he's been riding the ragged edge a little bit all the way through, and he's not comfortable riding that way. He's going to have to, though, because he's got Kageyama right behind him, and a great start there by Steve Martin, and that was the mistake that Tosland made.
He just outbraked himself, Jack. Like you said, he's struggling with the times, and if he's pushing at the minute, then he's just going to drop further and further back, especially they've got fresh tyres now. When they go off, he's going to struggle. Let's just hope he can dig in there and hold on.
Vermeulen leads it then, but Nannini's gone out. Oh no, it's Max Neukirch now. What's he doing out there?
That was Yamaha.
It wasn't Neukirch. No, I think we had a slight mistake on the actual captioning there. We'll now go back to the front 3, the strong 3. At the front, we've got Chris Vermeulen, chased and harried by Troy Corsa and Regis Laconi, 3 of the guys who've been proving to be consistently quick. And of course, at the moment, Laconi knows that his 2nd place in the championship is very much. I beg your pardon, it's Kageyama whose 2nd place in the championship is very much under pressure from Vermeulen, just a 3-point gap.
I'll tell you what, Jack, that Honda's fast compared to the Suzuki. Corsa pulled out the slipstream then and just sat at the side of him. Plus they're just waiting. You never know.
Neukirch is still there, 2 places ahead of his teammate at Claffey Honda, and that's Frankie Killy. Steve Martin ahead of Cardozo, Lanzi, and Cardozo incidentally had a coming together with Kageyama that ended up in them coming to blows on Friday, and each got fined $1,000 US. It's obviously the weekend for bust-ups. The heat must have been getting to them, but certainly Cardozo made a mistake going into the final chicane when they were both on flying laps and got in Yukio's way. Yukio gave in the bird, and they stopped round the back of the track. As Troy Corsa tries again to get underneath going into the Tremento and goes very wide, and again Laconi has a look underneath. Corsa recovers.
Corsa tapped the gas on and just went sideways. I wonder if he's gone with a harder tyre and just hoping it's going to come in sort of halfway through the race. He was definitely out of the seat then, you watch. He just tipped in mid-corner and look, he's out of the seat.
Oh, and that was a big moment for Corsa, who did well to recover it that quickly. Certainly, Chris Vermeulen's gone for, most of these guys have gone for the new fatter 200mm rear Pirelli, the new tyre that Pirelli has introduced that Chris Vermeulen was able to test at Magny-Cours. That was a great start by Vermeulen. He got it just pitch perfect. Not such a good one by Laconi, but he's now right back in the fray. And incidentally, Vermeulen has gone for the harder construction tyre. He doesn't necessarily favour that, but he just feels he's going to need it to last the 25 laps. And I think that might have been one of the Yamahas went down.
Cardoso, I think.
At the front, Vermeulen, Corsa, Laconi getting away now from Muggeridge, and number 1 James Toseland in 5th place. Behind Toseland, Kageyama, Martin, Cardozo, Lanzi, Norihaga, amazingly from 22nd place on the grid, rounding out the top 10, ahead of Chris Walker now, Neukirchner and Killy.
Oh, it's Pitt.
And it was Pitty who went down. Andrew Pitt, already a little bit disgruntled with life because the leg injury he sustained in warm-up at Silverstone when he had a big high side there. And that's Michele Galina. He's out on the MV Augusta. Yeah. Oh, and Pitty lost the front end, and he hasn't been able to go and enjoy the beach like the rest of the guys because of the wound in his leg. So not a happy Pitty, and an even less happy one now.
He's in the gravel beach now, Jack.
Which would probably be even worse for his leg, won't it, really? Fastest lap, Vermeulen, 136.666. All the sixes, and Vermeulen is just beginning to peel away a bit at the front.
Right then, Jack, who's your top three? What's your final position? Pound on the table.
These three.
Oh, that's not fair. Oh.
I'm not, good heavens! And we've already got someone absolutely in flames. Number 21, Michel Nickmans, the Zone Rouge Yamaha RZ, the veteran and extremely steady, shall we say, Belgian, who's kind of his own team boss. And I think it's time he got someone a bit quicker on the bike, really, and someone a bit less liable to burst into flames.
He can't really sack himself for that, then, can
he? No, you've set a light to the bike. You're out. I was saying that Vermeulen's gone for that harder construction tyre because he says also at the front he likes it to feel pretty rigid at the front. The softer one moves around a bit too much for him. And look at Steve Martin heading that third batch, which includes that man, number 9, Chris Walker, who really was desperately put out with himself over that mess he made of his Superpole lap, which dropped him right back to the 4th row of the grid. And at the moment they're getting hooked up behind Lanzi. Lanzi, who's been quick all weekend and is hanging in there, looking quite impressive. Fonzo Nieto, unusually in the points ahead of Giovanni Busai on the only Bertocchi Kawasaki, because Ivan Clementi there has moved on to the Pedicini Ducatis and was 6th fastest before Superpole, where he went quickly backwards.
I'll tell you what, Jack, Corsa looks like he's struggling here a little bit. I don't know if he's gone for a really hard tyre and it's not come in yet, but just little bits and bobs into corners. He's running wide, missing the apex, but having said that, he closes right up.
So he's now beginning to put a little bit of pressure on Vermeulen. Vermeulen back number 77.
Muggeridge has either sat up or made a mistake then. He's either broke down or made a mistake on the track. He sat up and let Toseland through. Oh, he just made a mistake, that was all. So
Toseland back through into 4th place, but is there anything he can do to close the gap on the front three? At the moment, these three with and somebody else going down here. Well, the lads have been slaying. It's desperately slippery. Norino Brignola has dropped his Ducati and looking a trifle painful there. And the track is very, very slippery. So when even the top guys start to fall, the likes of Brignola just might hit problems, and he has. But thankfully, he didn't take anybody else with him. Meanwhile, up front, here comes Kageyama, Yukio Kageyama, a first-timer at this track, trying to get underneath Carl Muggeridge, who, of course, was Super Sports King last year. And, of course, Carl Muggeridge, back in 1998, rode his first-ever World Super Sports race right here as a wild-card debutant for Honda Britain and finished in 11th place in the points.
It looks like they're struggling for grip already. Everything's on the move, everybody.
But the lads have been saying, Vermeulen's been really emphasising how slippery the whole place is, far more so than it was when he set his fastest lap on the Super Sports bike last year. Look at him, just to prove the point. And there goes Laconi. He dives underneath a slightly uncertain Troy Corsa and launches into 2nd place. The man who won one of the races here, of course, last year in rather less clement weather. But here comes Corsa straight back. And once again, the Frenchman holds him off. The red flag's out. And Troy Corsa sticks up his reach Superpole, and then he had a really bad what's he doing there? Big late June here because the heat's brought out the crowd once again. Those were the positions at the partway stage of race 1. Vermeulen, Corsa, Laconi, Muggeridge, Toseland, Kageyama, Steve Martin, great ride. Cardozo, a good one. Lanzi, a good one. Holding up perhaps Hager, Walker. Neukirchner is still down there, even though that's what I thought. He crashed after the red flag. Thank you very much. Baking heat here, enthusiastic crowd. Vermeulen, the leader, the truncated first race. Oh, and they held those lights again, but Vermeulen gets a good start. So this time too does Muggeridge up the inside. Have the two 10 Carte Hondas got it? They have. It's a 10 Carte 1-2, and Regis Laconi dips underneath the two Suzukis as well, and James Toseland almost gets taken out by Kageyama, has to stand the Xerox Ducati up, and he's been pushed aside, and Stalker's in there just behind him trying to get underneath as they go through the long first left-hander. Stalker has a moment there, and Giovanni Busset tries to peer up the inside there and tries to get through as they go streaming out on the back straight. Not such a good start this time though for Steve Martin's Foggy Patronus FP1. But at the front, Vermeulen once again sets the pace. And up the inside into Tremonto. There goes Regis Laconi, not deep enough, and Corsa a bit cautious. He said he was cautious in the first 2 or 3 turns. He's never really been comfortable with them. And Muggeridge nearly unloads big time as they come out of Tremonto, and that gives Regis Laconi the opportunity. He moves inside into second, and the crowd cheer him.
Laconi's had 2 or 3 looks at.
Look at Muggers
straight back underneath it.
That corner's got a beautiful camber on it. You could see the way that Muggers just used it like a speedway ball just to hoy himself through there.
You can just bury the front tyre into it and have a bit of confidence that it's going to stick.
Kageyama's fourth, so Troy Corser at the moment been nudged back to 5th place, just ahead of James Toseland. Now surely that gives Toseland the opportunity to attack him. One person doing a lot of attacking isn't Regis Laconi great? He rides that bike with such muscular spirit all the time.
Yeah.
As they come round now to complete the first of 21 laps, Vermeulen leads it, Muggeridge second, third is Regis Laconi, fourth Yukio Kageyama, 5th Corsa, 6th Toseland. And there is, look at Norrie Haga. How does he do this when he's had such a completely and utterly awful time right through the weekend, and then he's there in the race in 8th place ahead of Stalker. No, I beg your pardon, Stalker's ahead of him at the moment, but Stalker runs a bit wide, and that gives the Yamaha the chance to dive under. Oh, not if your name's Chris Walker, it doesn't. Walker holds on to him. I wanted to see what happened then, but we've gone back to a slow-mo of that moment for Muggeridge.
There's 2 hard cases there going together.
Muggers. Dear me. That lad's been riding so smoothly, a really good smooth Super Pole lap. He's been comfortable on the bike, not all weekend, but not during the opening lap here.
It's maybe just a harder tyre selection he's gone for. It's just not come into play yet. Corsa's dropping back now into Toseland's arms. Come on, James.
But James is also getting nagged a bit. And is it Jose Luis Cardozo, I think, who's right there with him?
Yeah.
There's Toseland, it's Cardozo beginning to show some real form now, and Fonzie Nieto and Ben Bostrom have both got good starts. So Fonzie Nieto, who hasn't really shown any sort of form so far in World Supers, is up there in 12th place. And
Laconi really needs to be past Muggeridge. Oh, right on cue, nearly.
But Muggers likes those wide sweeping lines, and he clips those apexes, and it makes him difficult to get past, even when you're tucking well in.
He's a bit of a demon on the brakes as well, Muggeridge, but Laconi needs to get past because Chris is starting to pull away a little bit. Yeah. Plus, he's got the advantage from the first part of the race as well, hasn't he?
And you've got the advantage from the first part of the race too, yes. So Muggeridge on accredited times there is lying in 4th place, although he's second on the road at the moment, and Cardozo is 7th, Haga 8th, Martin in 10th place when you combine the two, because he's not having a fun time at the moment. And there's Frankie Killy going up there underneath there, number 3 Norik Arbe on the 1 Yamaha Epone France bike that's out there. Coming again through that fabulous, searingly fast sequence of left-handers onto the back straight, and then braking for Tremonto. And Norrie Haga dives underneath Jose Luis Cardozo. And already coming into the pits, we have number 92 Luca Conforti on the Juan Dallini 999 RS, as we go back to the battle between the 30-year-old former MotoGP contenders Norrie Haga and number 30 Jose Luis Cardozo, who glances over his shoulder, and there's the Stalker. Eyes on Storks right behind him, and chasing Stalker is Fonzie Nieto. whose uncle Angel Nieto, of course, was one of the winningest riders in motorcycle Grand Prix history. How does Norihaga do this? It's just extraordinary. It's as if Toshi must know how to deal with him. He rams those ice cubes down the back of his neck and the fella takes off.
He's maybe put ants down the back of his leg. Back of ants. He's like a caged animal. He comes out race day and he's a different character to qualifying.
Here comes Laconi, and this time he does make that pass successfully through the first turn. So Regis Laconi through the Misano curve is through into second place as he hits the Charo now, the left-hander here. That's the first tight left-hander before it opens out through the Curvone Veloce sequence onto the back straight.
Corsa has definitely been dropped off here, and Kageyama's caught onto the back of Muggeridge.
So these four are the ones who are breaking away now without championship leader Troy Corsa, and at this point they're running parallel with the Strada Provinciale Riccione Morciano, the main drag that runs past the Autodromo Santa Monica. James Toseland has very much got Norihaga's Yamaha Italia R1 for company now, and Norrie's looking to find a way past him, round him, through him, over him. Oh, look at that move by Laconi. But Vermeulen, the great thing about Vermeulen that's got to hold you in good stead at a moment like that is he never looks back.
No,
so he doesn't know who's behind him, and he's not concerned who's behind him. And Maxner Keuchner has gone out again, so that's two motorcycles then for the Team Claffey Honda guys. He can't believe he's done it, and the 22-year-old German, so fast all weekend. Second place on the grid until Superpole has his second crash of the day on race day.
He's having a look, he needs to be going through, doesn't he? He's been held up.
Laconi, he's happy and confident. Both these guys at the front using that new fatter 200mm diameter tyre.
You can see Laconi's got a little bit in hand because he's holding tighter lines than Chris. Chris is running out to the curbs everywhere, and if you watch Laconi, he's got maybe a metre either side.
Certainly Chris said he would have liked to have gone for the slightly softer tyre, but he knew that the harder compound, the harder construction was the only thing that was going to last him the whole length of the race. So he said, I just had to go with that. And it gives me the stability that I need. You never look at Chris's riding and think stability comes into it, really, do you? He looks so fabulously electrically loose on the thing. So Winston Tenkate Honda, remember they had this huge 2,000 people attended the party in the biggest nightclub in Riccione last night, so they would love to celebrate with a race win, but I think Regis Laconi has other ideas.
Got a speed trap time that Laconi's 10 k's down on Vermeulen.
That was impressive. No wonder he couldn't manage to dive underneath him. Look at the way he rides that thing like the dirt bike that he used to constantly finish runner-up to Brock Parks, actually, during their amateur dirt tracking days back home in Australia.
He's getting payback now on Brock, isn't he, though?
He certainly is. Brock really struggling to find form this year. He'd been niggled by injuries, of course. Vermeulen did massive amounts of laps, of course, during the two-day testing that Winston Tenkate Honda had after Silverstone at Magny-Cours, when they sorted out new swing arms and swing arm pivot points and improved the bikes a great deal. But he's up for the star-studded treatment when we leave here tonight, because there's a helicopter whisking him away straight after the second race to Bologna Airport, and then he's been flown straight to Japan, where he's testing the Suzuka 8-hour bike on Tuesday, Wednesday, that he will be sharing with Katsuaki Fujiwara, most likely. Here comes Laconi up the inside, and this time he's got it. This time, 15 laps to go out of 21. Regis Laconi gets to the front, and Chris Vermeulen immediately thinks, well, can I just do him again up the inside here? He's certainly having a look to. Yeah. But listen to the crowd. They appreciate the fact that there is now a Ducati at the front of the pack in their home round. Onto the back straight. Vermeulen, can he hang on now to the rocket ship Ducati now that Laconi's at the front? Oh, Chris. Sideways down the back straight.
Just floats the back tyre around, doesn't he?
Nice move by Laconi. He's making that. He just goes straight as an arrow for that apex, and if the guy gives him any space to be there, then he's going to arrive there and make the pass.
Yeah.
And that time he did. A slight advantage straight away. Laconi, Vermeulen and Carl Muggeridge. Now, you rather unkindly suddenly lobbed a question at me about who my first three were going to be in the first race, so I'm going to lob that one back at you, Mara.
Laconi's looking good. Obviously, it's an easy thing to say now. He's at the front, but he was looking good in the first part of the race, and he seems to be breaking away. I think Corsa's going to catch these up again, so I'm going to go Laconi, Corsa, Vermeulen on the final result. No, all the way around. Corsa, Vermeulen, Corsa even, sorry.
Vermeulen, Corsa, okay, so you're going to go Laconi, Vermeulen, Corsa. I thought you were asking a lot of Corsa to suddenly pick up that sort of gap. I mean, I'm sure there's a possibility that he will, but to catch Vermeulen as well, when there's two guys between him and one of those is they're a pair of tigers there, aren't they? Carl Muggeridge and Yukio Kageyama, a couple of tearaway guys together. Yukio really laid on it in that fabulous manner of his that he'd already honed before he ever arrived in British Superbikes. And then it's Riccio Chianari and his mentor Taddy Okada, who are going to ride the other Honda in the Suzuka 8 Hour. Look at Chris just bending the bike into Tramonto. And the problem for Chris, of course, is he rides a Pucca factory bike when he goes and tests that Suzuka 8 Hour bike. And that's why he says he'd love to be in World Superbikes next year riding that motorcycle, because he says no matter what we do with the Tenkate Honda, that's a bike built in a workshop in Holland. And the HRC full factory bike is just a mint thing to ride.
The HRC bikes are hand-built in Japan. I mean, there's a small factory, you know, the frames and everything are all handmade. And the bikes that they're on now are basically a fibre blade that's taken out of the shop and then ripped to 1,000 bits and put together again. So you know, there's going to be a lot of difference, and he'll probably be spoiled when he gets out there on the factory one.
Now, you did mention Kageyama as a potential rostrum finisher here, but I've got a feeling he could be, because he's certainly making Muggeridge's life pretty uncomfortable at the moment.
Yeah, but where was he in the first part of the race?
Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry, we're completely forgetting that we've got an overall to consider here. Yeah,
we've got a pound on it.
And right, okay. So at the moment, the overall state of play with 13 laps remaining is Laconi, Vermeulen, Troy Corsa 3rd, Carl Muggeridge 4th, Yukio 5th, Tosland 6th, Norihaga 7th, Stalker is 8th, Cardozo 9th, and Fonzo Nieto rounding out the top 10, with Killy back in 12th place. That's the overall state of play at the moment as Kageyama makes his move on Muggers.
Kageyama's 3.7 seconds down on Muggers, so he's got to actually break him by that, and then he's
to move into 4th place.
5 seconds down on Corsa.
So I see what you mean. So Corsa's chances of being on the rostrum are in fact very sound. And James Tosland is at the moment hanging in there with Norihaga, and he's not allowing the Japanese superstar to get past. Tosland did slip into the wrong 37s though. He was the only one amongst the leading 7 riders to slip out of the 36s on that lap, which has allowed Norrie to close right back up on him again.
Up to now, Vermeulen's got the fastest lap with a 36.6. So Laconi's at 36.7, so they're breaking the toe.
And a quick wriggle there from that Sony Yamaha Italia R1 of Norihaga. Haga looks up the inside. He always has been capable of turning a bike on the old perennial sixpence.
I think that's what James is struggling with, you know, just getting the bike turned into the corner, having the confidence in the feel from the front tyre. He's just struggling with it. He doesn't look comfortable at all.
There's a huge array of front tyres available from Pirelli this weekend, and the Pirelli guys have told us that the teams are using absolutely everything. There's hardly any two guys using the same front tyre.
That's what you get when people are struggling. They'll try anything, and sometimes they stumble on things that works, and others they can chase the tails and end up just not being comfortable even on for the second race.
Chris Walker's breaking away slightly in the background from his constant pursuer. I think it's Fonzo Nieto there who's trying to nail him in the background of our picture, and Chris just beginning to break clear a bit. Walker currently on 8th place on aggregate, 11.9 seconds behind the leader and just about 7/10 ahead of Jose Luis Cardozo. Here's the battle between Carl Muggeridge and now Troy Corsa, because Kageyama's got away from him. And Corsa now, as you predicted he would, is beginning to press as the race goes on.
Yeah, I think Corsa's going to go past Muggeridge, and then I don't think he's going to make much more. Well, I'll probably shoot myself in the foot by saying this, but I don't think he'll make much more progress. So I expect Corsa to win this one.
Judging by I can feel it in my bones, this is going to be a rocket ship lap yesterday in Super Bowl, then yes.
Absolutely. Muggeridge is struggling, he's sideways everywhere, and he got kicked out of the seat then again, so he's struggling for grip, the old lad.
James Tolson's working really hard to stay ahead of Nori Haga. He's looking as determined and committed as he always has done. At the moment, remember, at the front, Laconi leads it by 0.6 of a second on aggregate from Chris Vermeulen, with Troy Corser in third place, 3.6 seconds behind the leaderboard. Corser dives underneath Carl Muggeridge there as they go through the Misano curve and pitches himself through to fourth place. Muggers in fifth is about 1.6 seconds now behind Yukio Kageyama on aggregate.
I think James is going to catch Muggeridge, you know. He seems to be doing consistent laps and pulling him in. Having said that, Muggeridge was slightly faster that last lap.
Muggers losing that fourth place in this particular part of the race, but Laconi is breaking clear on a track he absolutely loves. And Chris Vermeulen sideways into Tremonto with Kageyama just behind him. Then Corser, Muggeridge, and the gap has closed between those two and Tolsland. Stalker leads the second wave with the Fonzigneto next up. And Lorenzo Lanzi also in there on bike number 57. And Frankie Killy is gradually beginning to wear these guys down. And Killy is lapping between 0.2 and half a second quicker than those three just in front of him at the moment. So Killy really closing that gap on the guys ahead. He'll be disappointed with himself, not just his starting position, but his starts.
Yeah. I mean, you can get off the line clean, but if you get into the first corner and somebody just happens to out pass somebody else and make them sit up and you can be on the outside, you can lose so many places just by that.
Even if you appear to be struggling a little, as Tolsland has done all weekend, although he did claim third fastest lap throughout qualifying on a race setup, but you could hardly see that reflected right now. But it must give him a bit of confidence and a boost when he sees someone like Muggeridge coming back to him. Yeah. And here he comes now, attempting to pass him into that Charo, and he does it very neatly. Immediately makes Carl sit up. And of course, you know, they've had their little comings together during the course of the season so far. So that was a good, clean pass by Tolsland on Muggeridge. And that will... And hopefully with a bit of clear track ahead of him, I think it's going to start to open out now for the second of the Xerox Ducatis. He's got Corser ahead of him.
James might actually find that the bike's coming back to him now a little bit, and the more laps he does, the more confident and feel he's going to get with it. But Muggeridge is definitely struggling.
Mugger's being forced wide by Haga, then two men who don't like to give up, absolutely side by side out of the Tremonto, and Muggeridge has the inside line, but Nori Haga roosts it round the outside, and he dips into the right-hander at Quersha with an advantage. Haga trying to, it looked almost like he could do two people at once there, but Muggeridge wasn't going to let up easily as he kept it on round the middle of the track. This track is a consistent 12 metres wide the whole way round.
That's still not wide enough sometimes yet.
No, you can see from the way these guys treat it. Now, can Tolsland set his sights on Corser and be inspired to catch him?
I hope so. It's asking quite a bit though, Jack, to be honest with you.
And all the guys out seem to be struggling just with sheer grip, really, because Laconi's just tipped into the 137s, 137.21 on that lap. Vermeulen 137.7. And Kageyama has gone into third place on aggregate. Kageyama moves into third place on aggregate by less than 1/10 of a second over Troy Corser. So Corser, who has done a 138.1 on that lap, but having said that, Tolsland was just down into the 38s as well. Regis Laconi, Chris Vermeulen, and begging your pardon, what's happened to Kageyama? While I've been checking out times, Yukio Kageyama has disappeared. It's funny how these things happen to you. And Lorenzo Lanzi snatches a place from Chris Walker. And Lanzi looking very confident round this circuit on Ducati. James Tolsland then benefiting then from the loss of Yukio Kageyama. Mara, I was expecting it to be my second set of eyes. Did you see what happened to Kageyama?
I didn't see a thing. I was looking at the times, and then next thing you said he's gone.
So Kageyama, who had moved into third place on aggregate, disappears. Steve Martin glances over his shoulder. He's just behind Jose Luis Cardozo on the sterile guard at R1. But Laconi now clear at the front. And Vermeulen has been left pretty clear in second place. And Kageyama has made a mess of his Suzuki. There's always that risk with Yukio that he could bin it, isn't there?
Yeah, he does charge hard though. Here we go.
And no wonder they had to collect a few parts there. Look at the crowd surging to the fence to see that he's all right, and Yukio thankfully starts to move almost straight away. This is Lorenzo Lanzi, Chris Walker, Fonzo Nieto and Frankie Killy in their four-way battle. But look at, as Kageyama walks off, and no wonder he went head over heels, because he did it on the entrance to those that long Cavone Veloce, and that is quick.
Laconi's got a good 2-3 seconds on Vermeulen now on overall time. It's a good performance, this, from Laconi. Very good. It just looks inch perfect.
So Laconi's pulled away at the front. Vermeulen looks comfortable in second, and third place now, Corsa. Fourth, Tozer. This is on the road, of course. Fifth place for Norrie Haga. Sixth place for Carl Mugridge. And but on with 8 laps remaining on the actual combined times that we've got with the first half and second half of this race. We've got Laconi, Vermeulen, Corset, Tosland, Mugridge and Haga in that order.
Oh, smoke. That was off Haga's tyre, wasn't it?
It could be. I hope it wasn't his engine. We like to see him smoking up the tyre rather than bursting the engine. Vermeulen then second. But unable to do anything about Regis Laconi. Laconi looking really impressive at the front. And Vermeulen looking equally so in second place. He just likes to ride it on the edge like that. That's the way he was brought up to do it, with all those oil slick dirt tracks he used to spend his time having fun on as a kid. Tosland, though, still pushing hard in fourth place behind Troy Corsa with 7 laps to go. Their last laps respectively absolutely the same, 1:38.0 for Corsa and for Tosland. So Tosland has certainly got a line now on Troy Corsa as Frankie Killy dives underneath Fonzi Nieto, so he's going to have Chris Walker in his sights next. Frankie Killy riding those beautiful Italian national leathers, trying to make his move through the field and give the crowd something to cheer about other than the fact that there's a Ducati at the front. Laconi leads it. Vermeulen second, 3.5 seconds adrift.
That Ducati of Laconi's was a second faster than Vermeulen that last lap, so it's 3.5 seconds now. And Corsa's 7 seconds behind.
Well, Corsa's getting caught now by number 1, James Tosland. Oh, we think he's getting caught by Tosland. Certainly Tosland's managed to match his pace.
We hope he's captured him.
We hope he's, we like to think he's catching him. Chris Vermeulen. Tosland, of course, is presently 5th in the championship with 98 points. But he's that gap to his team leader. Oh, did I say team leader? I do beg his pardon. His teammate is going to open up a bit if Laconi wins this race, and therefore wins overall on aggregate. Stalker on 74 points will move away from Pitt on 70, but Norrie Haga's on 68. He's going to close up on Stalker, and Frankie Killy's on 66. Norik Abe on 62 is struggling to get in the points at all. He's outside the top 20 at the moment. And they're threatening to open the pit lane for Supersports at 13:32. That's our continental time. That's an hour behind for you guys, so that's just turned 12:30 UK time. So they're trying to run things pretty much on time after the lengthy delays with World Superbikes. Lorenzo Lanzi brings up a cheer as he moves past Mugridge. You said that Mugridge was struggling, but like he's going from struggle to struggle with a capital S at the moment.
It don't come to it. He's maybe got a brake problem.
And Killy, look at the lines that Killy can hold. He just lets that back end. Oh, and the Clappy Honda protests and shakes its head. Is that a Honda Fireblade trying to tell him you can't do that, mate?
I'm not prepared to do that, the bike's saying. And Killy's saying,
yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
And Stalker's PSG1 course XZX10 gets taken by Killy, but he dives straight back underneath him, and Frankie loses out again. Or does he? Yes, he does. Going around George Charro, Frankie says, no, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have it back.
You'd think you'd know better at that age, wouldn't you, Jack?
You would, yeah. 40 years old, still wild-eyed and ambitious, and now we can see Carl Mugridge just ahead of him. Frankie Killy king of the high sides, the most popular man probably in World Superbikes worldwide, is on the charge as we go into the closing stages. 6 laps remaining, 5.5 laps remaining for these guys, and surely Toseland is catching Troy Corser this time. Laconi crosses the line, he's your leader.
Killy's actually lapping half a second faster than Toseland, so he might catch them both and just pinch them last 2 positions, you know.
The way that the old boy's motoring, there is a possibility, the rate at which he's closing them down. Right now as they cross the line, and it's a 38.2 for Corser, it's a 38.099 for Toseland, so he has crept in a little bit there. And a 38.0, so Toseland and Killy both lapping and a clean 38 on that lap. But Toseland is he's got his eye on the man who would possibly, conceivably be his successor as World Superbike champion. Although Troy Corser, champion in 1996, taking nothing for granted. He said he was going to go out there today and annihilate the opposition on his way to another race victory. It was only race wins he was thinking about, but now he's in a battle for 4th place with James Toseland. And right now, actually, it won't make any difference. It would make a lot of difference for Toseland's pride, but in terms of overall aggregate, Mara, Toseland's about 3 seconds or 2.5 seconds behind Corser in 4th place.
Pride's a big thing though, Jack.
It is, and James Toseland, wouldn't he just love to get past that Suzuki? Toseland pressing hard. 3rd place man, number 11, Corser. 4th place man, the reigning world champion, lest we forget it, number 1, James Toseland, finally discarding his number 52 race plate. Behind him, the man who's never discarded his number 41, Noriyuki Haga.
Toseland's going to do it, you know. If we don't pass him, he's going to get right on his tail. He's going to have a good go at him. 3 laps to go after this, or 4.
And I think it's 4 laps to go after this one. 4 laps to go.
James,
and again, James was just over 1/10 of a second quicker than Troy on that lap, so he's just gradually wheedling him in.
He's actually looking more and more comfortable as the race goes on, Toseland, in this. So hopefully, whatever the changes on the grid is made improvements, and they can maybe go even a little bit more for the second race.
Oh, look at him winding up that Ducati round the back straight, and the crowd willing him on now. They'd love to see that Ducati get through into 3rd place, at least on the road. And as they tailgate one another down the main straight, with Muggers back in 7th place, with Killy turning the heat up on him now, as Toseland attempts to turn the heat up on Troy Corser. Toseland, like Laconi, have been able to hold a tight line round Tramonto. And then they erupt up through the gears and then back it down to the 60-mile-an-hour right-hander at Charo. And then there's a short burst up towards 120 and then back it down for the Variante Arena, which they go in there, switch right and left. That takes them onto the new section of track. That's slightly different tarmac, but no difference in the slipperiness stakes. And then the long left-hander at Curva del Rio.
Oh, McCoy.
Oh, Gary McCoy. How many times is that man going to be parking up a Foggy Petronas FP1 this weekend?
I think he needs to pack his bag and go home and forget this weekend. It's just how it goes sometimes. Everything goes pear-shaped.
It's not going pear-shaped at the moment from Toseland. Toseland inching in on Troy Corser, but he's only got 3 laps to go in which to find a way round. And on that lap, Corser 138.3.1, Toseland 138.0.6. Toseland is putting in a set of really feisty, consistent laps. And here he comes. Toseland makes his move, and at that point, Troy Corser almost nudges him off onto the grass, and that was close. Was that a bit naughty, Mara, or was that quite acceptable?
At this time of day, it's acceptable.
And Corser even adds insult to injury by hoying burning rubber right in the face of James Toseland as they come tearing onto the back straight.
It's actually a good thing because it's going to make James more determined to get past him to give him it back, so it's probably done us all a favour now.
OK, well, come on, James, let's see what we can do about this one. Remember, you've got an expectant father ahead of you, so don't do anything too rough. And the battle going on right behind them, Haga and Lanzi, but look at this. Ooh,
yeah,
that was close.
He wouldn't know James was there, to be honest with you.
But James was in front of him.
That's what he'll say. It's number 36 in the excuse book. I never saw him.
Well, yeah, actually, Stalker said that, that's the thing. You've always got to be wary of Corsa coming off the start into the first turn, because he blinkers himself, and he just hits that first turn and regards it as all his own. So you've got to be a bit, just a bit wary of him. And certainly at that moment, he couldn't claim not to have seen him because he was ahead of him.
It's a medical condition called tunnel vision.
As they come on to the start and finish lap, 2 laps to go, and Toseland, 2 laps left in which to get through. Muggers is down into the 140s. He's really suffering now and has dropped sharply downfield. His teammate Chris Vermeulen still comfortably there in second place, but Troy Corser's going to get it from Toseland again, going into the left-hander at Curva del Charo, and this time he doesn't allow the Suzuki, at least not immediately, to come back. But here comes Corsa up the inside. Oh, and they're absolutely almost side by side, bending it round onto the back straight. But this time Toseland has it. Can he hold Corsa off under the brakes? Corsa surges round and does him again as they go into Tremonto. 2 World Superbike champions on the charge here, and determined to wrestle one another out of third place actually in this half of the race. And it makes not a heap of the difference to the end result in the race, but they aren't to know that. Thankfully.
I don't think they care about that, Jack.
No, definitely don't.
It's the reigning world champion against the what's the word?
Reigning against ex-world champion or
potential, yes.
Or prospective world champion.
I was getting too excited then. Come on, James.
Toseland working hard as we approach the climax of the penultimate lap. He'll just have one further circuit in which to try and stay close enough to that Alstara Corona Suzuki. Great ride by Lorenzo Lanzi, who's actually tugging these guys back in. He's lapping in 37.9. So he's that Ducati of his has just got that little bit extra left, that NCR. Ooh, I thought at the moment that looked like Killy having a huge moment coming onto the final turn, through the final turn there, but he just hung on to it. And he's well away now from Stalker, Fonzo Nieto, and I think Sanchini on the second of the PSG1 ZX10. So here comes Toseland again. Yeah. He knows the crowd like it if he gets underneath at this point.
Run him out.
That's it. Do as you would do to others, or be done to yourself, or whatever the I've lost it. The biblical inscription is.
It's a well-known saying up north, take that.
Yeah, but can he hold it down the back straight? That Suzuki is so quick down the back straight. What can he do now, Mara, to protect it? He can pull across, do that.
Yeah.
Now, can he still have the pace, and can he have where he needs to get braking underneath him going into the Tremonto? He holds it. Corsa tries to go the long way round. Toseland holds the inside line, and then he's got to... Oh, but Corsa comes round the outside. Now, Corsa's got the long route round the outside as they go for Del Charo. But Toseland holds it. We're on the final lap. Regis Liconi destined to take a race win. Oh, Corsa goes right, turns it really tight like he was always capable of doing with that Aprilia RSV. But Toseland hangs on to it. He wants to be third on the road as they cross beneath the checkered flag. The reigning World Superbike champion, 24-year-old Sheffield superstar, James Toseland, Xerox Ducati. He's in third place on the road behind Regis Liconi and Chris Vermeulen.
If James does this, this would be like a race win for him. Taking points off the guy who's leading the championship by such a vast amount after his qualifying and things haven't been so good.
Meantime, number 55, Regis Liconi takes a triumphant victory. Second place for Chris Vermeulen. Third place on the road for James Toseland. Followed by Troy Corsa, Lorenzo Land. Works exploding everywhere around Misano as the fans enjoy a victory. Yet another one for Ducati. And Chris Vermeulen's Honda second,